Yes! Good evening, everybody. How we all doing? Welcome back on board the Boise Bus for another episode full of speculation and manager chat. As of course, the Thursday night forum. Time when we open up the floodgates, everybody gets involved in the chat and we bounce back and forward about the topics that are on your mind. But let's face it, there's only one topic isn't anybody's mind, because the countdown is still on and the anticipation is maybe creeping into a wee bit of worry as the time goes on, as we await the inevitable, hopefully, arrival of Brendan Rodgers once again as the Celtic manager. Now, there's going to be four of us on. I'm currently joined by two familiar faces. Top up beside me there, it's Phil McGinley. He's the man with the mind and all the questions. How we doing, mate?
I'm doing no bad, mate. I'm feeling a bit better than what I was on Tuesday anyway. I'm up to about maybe 90% fitness now. I'm getting there, mate. Just gradually getting better. So, and I've actually got my microphone plugged in correctly this time, because on Tuesday, only after I listened back to the show, I realised, oh shit, my mic wasn't plugged in, my sound was coming through my camera the entire time. I sounded awful as a result. But yes, we're all good tonight. We're sorted.
Yeah, I know you were under the weather in this kind of particularly good tropical climate I've had, so I can't get anything worse than missing out on all this chat and being sick when it's absolutely roasting outside. But glad you're back, mate, and it's good to see your face one more time. And there's another face that we see every Thursday like clockwork, as of course the judge, Marc Kearney. How we doing, brother? Are you good?
I'm doing very well, Stevo. Yourself, mate?
Very good, mate. Yeah, looking forward to getting there. Are you now getting fed up? Is it time dragging on for you?
No. I think I'm a bit patient. I think we did see at the start of the week that this may take a week or so to get over the line. Unlike previous managers who pretend they want to talk to Spurs for 2 months, this has been, about a week and a half of negotiations. That's probably how long it normally takes. So I'm quite calm on the situation. There's a lot of folk on Twitter about to take off and orbit Uranus. So I'm quite calm with all, mate. I think I don't think it'll be tomorrow either. I think it'll be maybe Monday or Tuesday. But I'm quite calm on the situation. These things take time, and to be honest with you, I think the house situation has gave us all a fear that anything that takes longer than 5 minutes isn't going to happen. It probably will happen. So just need to take it on, mate.
Well, I'm sure we will definitely get into it, shall I say. And obviously, as we're saying, as advertised, we're going to be joined by Boise. But stupidly, he decided to take the train instead of the bus. So he's running late. Exactly. He's running late, but he will be joining us in due course, and I look forward to hearing what he's got to say. Anyway, before we crack on and we get into everything, just got to do as we say, a wee bit of housekeeping that we call all that good stuff. Of course, you're watching us on YouTube. If you haven't done it already, take 2 seconds. All it takes that, flip over, hit that bell icon, subscribe to ourselves. If you like what we do, give it a wee thumbs up. And if you want to go a wee bit mental, you can even share our content. That way it'll just get the traction down, get that fabled algorithm going, and get more of you on board. If you want to connect with us elsewhere, we are on social media through Twitter. Just search Boise Bus. You get an official Boise Bus page there, and all our personal handles also there if you want to interact with us for whatever reason when we're not on the bus. But we're also, you can check us out wherever you're listening. You don't have to just go through YouTube. We're on Acast, APL Index, or back Spotify, and anywhere else that you choose to stream. So make sure you check that out, and you can listen on the go. A couple of sponsors we've got to mention just before we crack on. The first is, of course, piesports.com, long-standing sponsor of the bus. If you want some match day munchies into your gaff, then get yourself over there, place your order, and use bus 1888 checkout. Gives you a nice round 12.5% off your order. Can I say fairer than that? And our most recent one, which is AD Pharmacy. So if for whatever reason you're fed up and feeling hard done by, get yourself over there, place a wee order for some magic beans. Make sure that you use the discount code BUS10 and you'll get 10% off. They also do next day delivery, or same day delivery, should I say, in most of the central Scotland area. So when they arrive, you can go from being hard done by to hard on and get your groove on with AD Pharmacy. And thanks to everybody for their taking up that order. They've actually extended it on for a couple more weeks, so take advantage while you can. That's it. Done. Let's get down to business. Anyway, one subject is only subject to talk about. It's the one on everybody's lips. We're still waiting on the manager. It's pretty much going to be a stick on. It looks as if it's Brendan Rodgers, Maresca, the one we were all worrying about. It seems that he is poised to go elsewhere. I took a big sigh of relief. I don't know about you two guys. How did you feel when you heard that?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Yeah, I don't think now's the time to be taking a chance on a seemingly rookie manager. I know he had a short stint managing somewhere, but it didn't work out very well, and I don't think we're really in a position to do that right now.
No, we can't be messing about that. But Maresca, seemingly out the picture, it looks as if it's a clear run for Brendan Rodgers, despite which some suspicious accounts online are trying to put out wee rumours that there's a bump in the water, a bump in the road, who knows, but I'm confident, like you guys, it's going to crack on. But before we go into the manager, the assistants and all that kind of stuff, there's another story that's going about Celtic. It's just maybe sailed under the radar a wee bit, and this is Odin Thiago Holm, Norwegian 20-year-old midfielder who's said to be joining us for 2.5 million thereabouts from Valengra. What do we know about him? Not a lot. We've all seen the videos. He can do a fancy flip. That might impress you, but I'm more interested in what he does on the park. He's played 91 competitive games at senior level and he scored 13 goals. So just want to talk about that for maybe 5 or 10 minutes because it's a signing, isn't it? And that's pretty interesting. So we'll go to yourself firstly, Mark. See, just based on that, we spoke last week about forward planning. Is there a structure in place and scouting and all this? Well, it appears that there must be because there's a signing tram up here. It seems like a bit of an unknown. 2.5 million is pretty decent money, is it not, for somebody 20-year-old? What's your thoughts on that? Out of nowhere?
Well, I watched the video, his highlights, and I burst out laughing. I thought, if that's his highlights, I don't want to see his bad games. A couple of ones he was just losing the ball, and a couple of ones he was just passing the ball 4 yards. I went, well, fuck me. Is this it? But to be honest with you, at least there's a wee bit of forward planning, as you say. Because I was a bit suspicious when I read the reports. I thought, well, who's signing this guy? We've not got a manager or an assistant manager yet, or an analysis coach scout yet, or nothing. So who the fuck signed this guy? But seemingly, it'll probably be Peter and Mark doing their usual. But to be quite honest with you, it's not really that concerning because if he comes in and he's no up to scratch, I'm sure the new manager, who probably is Brendan Rodgers, if he's not good enough, he'll not play. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of it. And the good thing about this is, if it is to be Brendan, any chinks in the armour in terms of anything for his previous stint, the signing strategy and relationships with the board and Peter Lawwell, that'll be all put aside because you wouldn't think the guy would sign under the same circumstances and the same restraints. So you've got to think that if this guy has come in, it might have been all right, he's not signed yet, but they might have asked him his opinion on him. You know what I mean? You'd like to think that they've at least did that, or at least say to him, like, this is a guy who might be for the future. But I don't see Celtic spending £2.5 million for a guy that goes into the B team, other than Bernabei, who I want to send into orbit as well, to be honest with you. I mean, so that guy goes, I think the previous manager must have had laughing when he took that flight to London, and he's left us with Kobayashi and that fucking prick Bernabei. So, no, just on your point, mate, it's good that we're there, or at least he might fit into the mould of the Ange philosophy of the type of player, and whether that fits into the same type of player that Brendan Rodgers wants, it's yet to be seen, because I think it's two different styles of football. Brendan Rodgers' style of football was all about possession and suffocating a team to death and finding wee gaps. His famous quote was, just keep working with the ball because the opposition will get tired and they will make mistakes, and that's when we'll pounce. Whereas Andrew's all about forcing the mistakes. So two different types of football, and that's what I think some players like Daizen Maeda, I can't see him getting much game time under Brendan Rodgers, if I'm being honest with you. Two totally different guys. So it's good that we're at least looking early, because Rangers, I think, have got a wee bit of a head start. They've got a lot more work to do than Celtic, to be fair. But one thing about Rangers is they get their work done early. Whether it's good or bad work, they have got it done early.
Yeah. Well, yourself, I just want your take on it, Phil. As we said as well, you know, obviously, unfortunately, you've not been around the past week, but certainly in the chats that we've had on the show, we've been talking about the idea of if the players that have been identified as targets were good enough for, assuming Andrew's still going to be here during the summer, why shouldn't it be good enough now? Do we follow through with things that were perhaps already in place? And that goes for, any chat of restructuring upstairs or infrastructure. If it's good enough at that time, it should still be good enough then. What's your thoughts on that? Hasn't signed yet, but do you buy into that theory that if he's been identified and you see something there, that we go through it? And do you also think maybe, as Mark said, let's face it, if Rodgers has been approached and he's all but signed the ink on the paper, that he'll have been asked, these are things that we've got, to take a quick look at them?
My first thought when I did see the link to a player without a manager, my first thought was this must be some kind of sort of not leftovers make it sound quite but like obviously Ange or the
legacy signing.
A legacy signing, yeah, I suppose that could be the best way to describe it. And it could be something along those lines. At the end of the day, right, obviously Ange had a very particular style and how he wanted to play and the players he signed. It's a very niche type of squad he was putting together. At the end of the day, if the boy's good enough, if he's coming in to play under Brendan Rodgers, if that's who ends up being the manager, then he can adapt to those systems. If he's a good enough player, then he should be able to change his game accordingly. So, I'm quite excited. In fact, he's got changed his name to Spanish international midfielder. Although Thiago, as I said to you off air, I was like, Thiago, he's all right, he's good. If he changed it to Iniesta or something, I would understand.
It's a product of his age, isn't it?
I was like, Thiago Alcantara. I was like, he's all right. But no, Iniesta or Xavi. Come on, man. We're just talking about Spanish midfielders. But no, I'm intrigued to see it. I've said before, when Andrew was a manager, I'm always intrigued by players from unknown markets. Because you don't know what you're getting. We've got a track record over the years where we have brought in some players from unknown markets, none of us know anything about them, and they turned out to be absolute balls. Guys like, say, Victor Wanyama and stuff like that. Totally under the radar side and nobody'd heard of. But then, so indeed, I won't judge the guy once I see him in a Celtic shirt playing. But yeah, if you're 20 years old, I'd agree with what Mark said. You would think spending 2.5 million, that's not a B team player. You would think that would surely be the case.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Lowland League teams, no chance.
Well, there he is. Listen, he's ghosted into the room. He's fashionably late, but as I say, he's supposed to get the train rather than the bus. Rookie mistake there. As of course, Boise, listen, how we doing, brother? It's good to see you.
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Sorry, I'm late.
Regulations of public transport.
Both ways the day, man. This morning I was late for work, so I had to pay back the time. And now I'm late for the bus because of fucking transport. I've actually not done anything wrong today. I've been standing there with my wee rucksack on, waiting to pay my fare like a good little boy. And these fucking bastards can't get there on time.
Well,
maybe me.
Mate, it's good to have you. We're just doing a wee quick round robin before we kick off.
Sure.
Listen, we're going to be talking about, don't we?
Sure.
But as we say, two things, just to get a wee quick take on it. You there. First one, of course, is it all seems almost but signed and sealed as far as Rodgers goes. Maresca is apparently a nailer on for another job. Did you breathe a sigh of relief when you heard that? And then finally, we've been talking about this young Norwegian Odin Thiago Holm, who's supposedly all but again near signing. So defensive midfielder, legacy signing, if you want to call it that. What's your thoughts on the two things? Were you relieved to see Maresca going elsewhere? And what's your thoughts on getting somebody in before a manager's in?
I didn't believe that Maresca. I think Maresca was a bold ambition that was never going to be satisfied by a guy who's got the bit between his teeth because he feels like Ange just dumped him outside the proms. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, fuck this. He's like, we're not going for some number two now. Do you know what I mean? I don't get ditched by nobody. So, Dermot's took charge. Dermot will make him even higher paid than last time. I'll lap it all up. I'm subscribed. I'm all in. I'm all in for some Brendan madness, man. I just think it's...
Me too, mate.
I think we live in it's a surreal time that we're in right now, because if you'd said at the start of last season, we'll be kicking off next summer on the bus, chatting about Brendan Rodgers back, I'd have said, I think that will happen, but not fucking next year. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel like the club's got the bit between its teeth when Dermot's fucked off, and I think this is a moment to be excited about. This is the question I'll put to you. See, at the end of the day, when it comes down to Rodgers signing and he's an imminent arrival, be honest how excited you've been. Every single person, you've got the wee feeling in your tummy, he can still do all that despite being a rat and a horror and all that stuff. It all turns out it means fuck all. I am telling you right now, not one other manager that we could realistically get, I mean, we're not talking about Pep Guardiola's and stuff for the world, that we could realistically get could have us all waiting like kids on Christmas Eve. And that's the reality of where we are. There's a hype about this. There's a vibe about it. It's Hollywood. It's blockbuster. And it goes back to something I was saying last summer. I said last summer, Celtic fans shouldn't be always having to view the club from a prism of being a half businessman, half fan. We're just supporters. We're allowed to be indulged in romantic things. I think the conversation was about Jordan Larson at the time, and we were going, imagine the imagery of Henrik with Jordan and Andrew, just go nuts. I think now, okay, I know it's not the same thing, by the way. I think now when you see Brendan there with the fucking tie on and that scarf in his hand again, we all go back round again. We're all in. And Celtic have got, they've got the slogan. They're going to now need to back it up. As for the player joining, well, Craig Gordon did no bad when he arrived, before Brendan took over. So, hopefully he'll go on to make a few hundred appearances for us as well.
Yeah, well, there we go. As we say, let's crack and get down to business, because if we say we're rumbling on now, we asked the question last week, how long's too long? It is dragging on, but it all looks comfortable. And as we said, with Maresca, albeit it might have just been a wee red herring through in there to make it look more interesting. With him out the way, it's a clear road into, because there is no other candidate who, let's face it, has got the gravitas, it's got the stature, and it's going to excite folk, whether they're peed off right now or not. But one of the things around it that just seems it's got to be settled is this situation of who's going to be in charge. I want to cover, I want to cover that. Obviously, the chat was last week that Kennedy had asked for this release and he was wanting to go away, as was Strachan going down to Spurs. It looks like that's now flipped, and depending on how you look at it or what you believe, that Celtic supposedly had an option. Well, obviously it was under contract, but more ironclad than just use it all away, see you later. And they've decided they want to keep him. But more importantly, Brendan Rodgers come in and he wants to keep him. He wanted to take him away to Leicester, right? And it comes back to this idea there must be something about him. And an interesting twist, his normal sidekick Chris Davies appears to be going, well, he taught him, didn't he? Is that just to be a spiteful bastard? Or what's your thoughts on that, Mark? It's a bit a strange one, is it no?
I actually read that Celtic had like a clause in Ange Postecoglou's contract that he couldn't come in and poach staff. I think that's where Celtic were dragging their heels, and he was supposedly aware of this before he it was made public that he wanted to come to Spurs with him. So he's been a bit naughty there. So no wonder Dermot Desmond been a bit pissed off with him, I think. And I think that might have been through the Brendan Rodgers situation. Celtic have been stung with that one. They've said, look, let's not lose the rest of their backroom team ever again so easily. And you maybe find that maybe Ange just went, okay then, if I can't have Kennedy, I'll take your number 2. That's fine with me, because Brendan Rodgers is obviously spoke to Kennedy, and see if Brendan Rodgers has spoke to him and said, I want you to be my number 2, that's good enough for me. Because it's not like Celtic, when you look at it, if this is, you think, okay, Celtic have told him, look, you're staying. And for me, I thought Celtic shouldn't be fighting for a guy to stay. But maybe that was the headline the papers wanted us to believe. Maybe the case was Celtic don't want him to go. That's fine. He's maybe an asset to the club. But also the manager who's coming in has said to the club, look, I want to speak to this guy because he was a big part of my success the last time, or at least a part of this mechanism that was churning out results after results in Scottish football. I want him to stay. It's continuity for the last setup. He'll know a bit about. I hate that word. I know I was scared of that word. This summer, in case we end up getting a job to Kennedy, but and I think that's a good thing for Celtic, is the fact that there's at least some of the presence that was there the last time Rodgers was there, because I never, even under Ange Postecoglou, the professionalism under Brendan Rodgers was something that you hadn't seen before. Yeah. All you guys will remember the minute he came in, even at half time, the warm ups at half time, there was two trainers out in the park. The guys were doing drills, they were doing something I never seen before. Even under O'Neill, I remember seeing Paul Lambert and I think it was Genio fling the ball at each other and catch it and tickle each other. we were 2-0 down. I remember one time, boys, we lost a game against Hearts. I think it was we lost the game 2-0 or 2-0 down at half time or 2-1, and It was Janino, Paul Lambert, and I think it might have been Stefan Honshaw. I can't remember exactly now. And they were tickling each other and finding the ball each other and 2-0 down at half time. And Maston was not happy. He was not happy at all. And that didn't happen. You didn't see Samaras jogging about the park at half time. This is an intensive professional structure that Rodgers brought in. You didn't see that totally under Ange. I thought Ange's team were an elite team in terms of their aggression on the park and their wee bursts of pace and things like that. But I don't think the fitness was geared to be the way it should have been. I thought it was an intensive structure, an intensive training regime he had, whereas I think Brendan Rodgers had just had 24/7 athletes. You look at pictures of James Forrest and even Ryan Christie in his last season, they guys looked like Premier League football players. They were all bulked up, looked like strong men.
True.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot of guys go skinny. Boise under Neil Lennon. I don't like to slag him just for the sake of it, but you did see a lot of guys lose a lot of muscle mass. I think Brendan Rodgers brought that into the club. And I think you might just see guys who we think have got a gear that it just knew. And if they had that a bit more like Abada, I think if Abada's a bit more stronger, he'd be a better winger. Maybe under Rodgers, maybe if he's a bit more stronger, he's a bit more muscle mass. Maybe he's getting biased by players a bit more. You never know.
No, I think as well, quickly on the Kennedy thing, I think whatever we want to look at it, we're going to get right behind this. This is the way I see it. It's 1-0 Rodgers already. You tried, but the power of the mind, and that is what he's good at. We were talking about players wanting to leave, 5 or 6 of them. He'll turn 5 or 6 wanting to leave into 1 or 2. And there will be 1 or 2 that will go. That's just natural. But see when it comes to Big Kennedy, Brendan just gets the wee thing out and he just looks at him and goes, trust in me. He's got. I taught these bastards how to do, manipulation. He's like, fucking watch me. John Kennedy goes.
He's not a degree in psychology or something.
He's got a degree in psychology.
And also, I know I read the night on the Mail Sport. The editor or the sports editor, he posted a wee message earlier on saying Brendan Rodgers was probably the only guy that was strong enough to persuade Kennedy not to go to the EPL. Yep. And I thought that's a good. I said because that's one of the Mail Sports, the one that's getting all the Celtic stories, and that's been going on for a few years now. Stephen McGill's been getting all the exclusives. That's Celtic's mouthpiece. We all know that. Yeah. I feel like that was put there for a reason tonight, and I thought good. And if we've got a dressing room full of players that bought into one man's vision and had total respect for him. If there's one man that can even overshadow that, it's a guy of Rodgers' stature, I feel.
Well, do you know, boys, I was about to come down to you. Obviously, you made a good point there, but I just want to get a wee elaboration from you on it. Obviously, we said about Kennedy, and there was this whole idea of, you don't want to have guys as a stick on, but as I touched on, he obviously wanted him previously, he's worked with him previously, and now he wants to keep him. So it is one up to Ange, and, unlucky Angie boy down there. But the big word is continuity, isn't it? That's the word on the lips, and we've seen it a few times here. So, for me, with the Kennedy thing, I'll be honest with you, and it sounds bad to say, the reason I was worried about him having him about or staying about was there was always that lingering thought that at some point they're just going to make him the manager because that's what they do. So I kind of wanted him out the door to avoid that potential thing.
I get that.
But if I'm honest and I look at him for a continuity and a coaching thing, of course I want him around. So, it's a silly thing to say, but do you think that folk are sitting here and saying, Rodgers is possession-based, it's different type of players. This squad isn't built for that style that he does. It's night and day. Do you think having Kennedy around is beneficial, not only for the continuity, but he'll cherry-pick. He'll be able to sit down, Rodgers, and say, here's the drills we've done, here's what we've done, this is their strengths, this is their weaknesses, and find perhaps a middle ground that'll allow is to still get a wee, the classical Rodgers style, with a wee extra bit of impetus, a wee bit more poke, like we did see under Ange.
Yeah, Brendan won't be an idiot with it. You listen to anyone around him. He obviously had Kennedy's year before, so he'll trust to have it again. From my point of view, genuinely, I think it's a huge mind trick thing, and I think one of the biggest things is laying a marker and going, if I want to keep people here, I'll fucking keep them. And I think Rodgers is laying a statement out with the Kennedy thing. And I know there'll be stuff about clauses and all that with contracts. If John Kennedy really, really, really wanted to go, it'd be very difficult to persuade an assistant boss not to be able to go to the EPL. I mean, we're living in cuckoo land. If we don't think that would be easy enough to navigate. What Rodgers wanted to do, though, is going, no one's weaker than what's around me. Do you know what I mean? And essentially, when it's the ex-boss, I think there's a lot of it's clever. It's getting the first dig in, mate. That's what it is. And I think it's showing that level of authority that, I'm back. I mean, I'm back, fucking business. And do you know what? Whether it's a false loving or not, I felt like the Ange stuff was a false loving 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
I genuinely was like, you're just desperate for him to be amazing. Like, so you're that desperate, you're just saying everyone's amazing before, obviously, it went on to be what I would say a very, very good spell. And now I'm just like, I know what this guy's about. I know what he's capable of. And I think when he comes down to, he'll be playing mind games already. I think keeping Kennedy is just one of those, just a first round, right big heavy jab to the nut, Stevo. Do you know what I mean? That's going to go wakey. Do you know what I mean? Things will happen when I'm here. And I thought, I would say a week ago we were all, whether you're consigned to it or whether you wanted it, that Kennedy would go to Spurs. No one disputed. Everyone was like, you were never in doubt in your mind. Now suddenly it's Kennedy will be staying. What's the common denominator? It's fucking him. And he's good at this sort of thing. And if that's his first blow and it's just maybe just a wee mind trick one, I didn't mind that. I'm all into it.
Good. Well, listen, there's about 350 years live. Absolutely tremendous. Can't believe you're want to hang out with this late in the day. Keep the points coming. It's brilliant. I want to start getting down to the points. I'm going straight to you, Phil. We're going ball deep.
Some God.
Pharmacy here, right? There we go, brother. The establishment press are going to try and wind them up about leaving last time. We better watch out. We know what's going to happen. So what I want to know is, on that, what's your expectations? I know what Boyce wants. He wants to apologise and that's a fucking literally nobody, right? But how does Brendan Rodgers, how does the club, get some of the naysayers, because there is plenty of them in the fan base, what do you think he needs to say or should say that's going to maybe smooth it over a wee bit in that first press conference? Because it's going to be like the Alamo.
Wow. Okay. Well, Brendan proved he proved the first time around the Celtic manager that he knows how to deal with the press. He does it in a different way that Ange dealt with them. The two of them are very savvy when it comes to press. We've just mentioned earlier on how Brendan knows PhD psychology and stuff like that. He'll know the right things to say. I cannot wait to see it. It's going to be phenomenal. I imagine he'll control it pretty well. He doesn't need to, I know we're talking about all the daft things that he said, all the lies and whatnot, the Danny McGrain stories and stuff, all these mad spinning a good yarn and stuff. But I think it'll be just be honest, ultimately you might say that, there was a difference in the direction 4 years ago, but now, the direction seems to all be, they're all on course now, because from what we've read in the papers, what we've seen in the stories coming out via Stephen McGowan is they're very much geared to making Celtic competitive in European football, something that we've said lots of times on the bus, talking about we should be using that as like a sort of measuring stick rather than, just being that wee bit better than Rangers and winning the league every season and domestic dominance. Let's try and push to the next level. Because again, if you have a team that can compete at a decent level in Europe, don't need to worry about Scottish Premier League. Take care of itself. Teams like St Mirren or Motherwell and all that, not really a factor. But when the first press conference happened, they'll try and wind them up. I think he'll deal with them. Again, you just see the mind games that he can play. So he's good with psychology and stuff like that. So he'll have them wrapped around his finger within the first couple of answers, no problem at all. And then it'll just be down to talking about business going forward once they get that awkward question out of the way. But in terms of what the fans might think, I was saying this on Tuesday night, it's going to be all about results, because there are going to be a set of fans out there that will just not change their mind, and that's fine. That is their gift to do so. I've seen so many on Twitter, on Facebook, and whatnot for the last couple of weeks since this story's been getting bigger and bigger. I'll never forgive him and stuff. But at the end of the day, if he's going to be a Celtic manager, realistically, you can't really do anything about it. You're going to have to basically get behind him. But if he gets the results, they will get behind him. It will quickly change. So, that's the only way he's going to win them over. But in terms of the press, he'll spin them pretty quickly. He'll have them wrapped around his finger after one or two answers, no problem.
Aye, no, it's certainly, as we said when we were profiling managers, being able to handle that sort of level of scrutiny and do it in a classy way and controlling that of yourself is deadly important about what we needed. So see, on that, Mark, as I say, how is he going to approach it? Because it's fine taking care of the media with his words is one thing. With regards to the naysayer fans, I was saying, well, how do you think it's going to pan out? You know, I'd suggested that I thought the best solution for the club would be a wee bit of self-deprecation, not from Rodgers, but if he was allowed to say, the reason I left was at the time my ambitions were not being matched. However, I have now spoke to them and they've assured me and they do match with mine and we're aligned and we're on this trajectory where we want to push on. If the club allowed that, then surely by self-deprecating and taking a wee bit of the blame, they instantly win it back. But see now, we mean business. Do you think we'll see something like that in the press conference as way of reasoning to maybe bring fans round, or do you think it'll just be, don't even talk about it, power on?
No, I think the full board is in situ. I mean, they're still there, so they'll want to distance themselves from any blame, because the fans will be well done, Chunks. The fans will be blaming Rodgers, and the board will be happy for that, because it was more of a boo-hoo, look what's happened to us when we had to bring in Lennon, and they want that narrative. I think for me, and I get Russell, and I get you all having a real laugh, and I would rather just been doing the professional route and just said, look, I feel like I've got unfinished business here. The time it was right for me to go the last time, a job came up, the opportunity came up to go back to the EPL. I done finished business. Celtic, I was trying to take time out. Celtic have came calling, and I feel like I maybe owe the fans a legacy, and I'm going to come back and do my best. That'll do me. That will do me.
I think that's along the lines of what you'll say. I think that's completely realistic.
I think so, Russell, because I don't think. I think one thing about Rodgers is he's dealt with the press in Liverpool and the EPL, and a fan like fucking like Hugh Keevans or one of the cadgers for the Sun. They've not got the intelligence to match this guy. You know what I mean?
No.
I mean, there'll be guys asking the Rangers manager their favourite type of pizza. That's the level of journalism in this country. So he'll batter him off. I think Ozzy's got to come out and see. I think he will satisfy a certain element of the fans by just saying, "Look, I understand there was a frustration why I left. It wasn't lost on me. I understand it. All I can do is I've got an opportunity now. I'm very privileged now because I've got an opportunity to probably be one of the first people in Celtic's history to change how I've been remembered. And by God, I'll do my best to change how I'm remembered, because nobody can judge his record as a manager at Celtic. That's unquestionable. One thing that we all can judge him with is the way he left. I personally, I've said it on the podcast, I think we're all kind of level-headed guys. We're no ones that called him rats. We've all kind of said, look, he left to go to the EPL. He left in February. He wanted to see his team evolve before the summer window. And he wanted to see what players were good enough. He gave himself the best chance the following season. And it worked, because he got him to 5th place in the league and won a cup. So you've got to say it worked.
Fifth twice. I didn't realise it was twice.
A European semi-final, an FA Cup, a Community Shield, 2 5th finishes. And his last season, they were selling players left, right and centre. It can't be a shock to anybody that he got them in a position. There's been bigger and better teams than Leicester City get relegated. I remember Leicester City in the 3rd division, so it's a maybe a shock to see Leicester City 5th place than it is in the Championship, I can assure you. But no, I think Brendan Rodgers, he'll bat it off. He's probably got an answer already lined up. And do you know something? Before we move on, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think all of the things he said was bullshit. The Danny McGrain thing, there might even be an element of truth that much in that story. It might all be bullshit, that story, but the guy didn't lie constantly. The guy's brother, there's photographs of the guy's brother on the Brazen Heat. So he did come off Ireland to watch Celtic matches. That was a fact. He's got Celtic in his family. You know what I mean? He was a Celtic man. In fact, you don't get a guy coming for Liverpool giving up his free time that he wanted. Look, by the way, it cost himself money to come out to Celtic without that Celtic connection. Celtic needed that guy at that time, and they came here. See right now, Neil Lennon, when Rodgers left, Neil Lennon, he got a phone call to say, come on, we need somebody like you to come in instead of this shit. Neil Lennon come back and done the same thing. When the club who you support call you, it's hard to say no. And Rodgers, same thing happened to him. And I feel like this guy, see if he's going to come in, forget about the man, forget about the past discretions, and remember, okay, the manager of this football club, until that guy stops bringing success, you can't do anything but back him. It's as simple as that, Stevo.
No, you make a great point there, and I want to ask you about that, Boise. People are saying, and I think it's went unsaid, and folk aren't really thinking it that way. Surely coming back is a way of making amends enough, is it not? Folk are splitting and taking a step back and going, how's he get the fucking audacity to come back? How dare he, right? But surely, as Mark says, he can control the narrative. He went away because he wanted to try something different, but he wants to come back. Surely that's saying more about him than the people give him for granted. Because let's face it, he could have sat about and he probably could have still got paid a shit ton more, whether it's in the Championship or elsewhere. He's choosing to go back to Celtic, obviously Champions League in the platform, but he's choosing to walk into a hostile environment. Surely that you've got to give him some praise there.
Well, it's not just that. Actually, what's mad, and I found it a wee bit nauseating at times when he was talking about Celtic a lot when he was the first 12 to 18 months at Leicester. But do you know the difference is? He can fucking now turn around and say I was telling the truth. I told you I wanted to go back. I told you Celtic was my favourite time of my career. Now suddenly, we just thought, oh, stop trying to get us all to fucking like you at the time, and you just can't believe the backlash. He could now back up what he said then and go, told you, next opportunity I got, I came back, and you're right, he was meant to be in a year's sabbatical. Let's just be real here. You tell me the next time you'll get a manager who in his last 4 years has two fifth place finishes. One of them was a goal away, a last minute goal away for the Champions League, an FA Cup, a Community Shield, an 8th place finish, which by the way was the highest Martin achieved at Leicester, was 8, right? Now you go, that's his the 3 full seasons he did at Leicester. That was what he achieved. And those 2 tournaments and the European semi-final, we'd be pissing ourselves laughing if we were getting a manager who'd done that. Let alone one that before that has the track record of 7 out of 7 trophies at Celtic before. It's got to be looked at with cynical eyes as well. I'm all for the actual emotional side of it, just because I think we deserve to have moments where we go, fucking hell, is this happening? And that's what I feel this is. I think it's even bigger in coming back than it is in coming the first time, which is even more bizarre, but that's a different point. However, when you just strip all that away, you just go, there's the CV. You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe we were getting something like that. You just be ridiculous unless they'd had a few years in the wilderness and that was just part of their CV, not their recent history. Their last job, that's what they achieved. Coming to Celtic, oh, come on. And by the way, there's 413 live.
Brilliant.
Nice one.
I love it.
Nice one.
Everybody loves this, and it's the anticipation that builds it up. But it's going to happen. It's going to eventually happen. And think how everybody's going to be feeling right now. We're obviously, we're just talking about it and we're giving our opinions. There's positives, there's negatives. There's folk are for, folk are against. But the one thing that is important, I did say the other day, is when he inevitably does become the manager, the important thing is whether you're for him or against him. Is we need unity in the fan base to win up. Booing.
Well, he called it the Holy Trinity. Do you remember this?
Happen.
Do you remember this, Steve? Very quickly, just as a great point you make. Do you remember he called it he said the reason the club's doing so well, I think this is after season 1, he says, we've got a Holy Trinity now. He says the football operation is in sync with the supporters and the board. That is what he said. He called it the Holy Trinity at the time. That's what he'll be wanting as these assurances. Essentially is, I want it going back to all 3 of us are fucking on the same, as Charlie Nicholas would say, the same spreadsheet, singing from the same spreadsheet. I think though that was such a clever point when he made it first time round. He wasn't trying to, again, we always liked Angie's everyday man stuff, Stevo, we do that. And I think Brendan kind of simplified what he'd done as well. What he basically said was, you get Celtic, all 3 of us, the support, board, football operation, i.e. the players and the management, all go in the same direction, we'll win. Like, that is it. And I think that's still the case. And I think the odds are firmly stacked in a club like Celtic's favour.
See that Celtic players got to run the stands and clapping the fans. He brought that togetherness. He was thanking the fans for showing up. And just quickly, you talk about the ego. We all talk about the ego of the man. Brendan Rodgers, you watch any video, Phil will tell you, he didn't stand 10, 15 yards in front of the Celtic fans. He just walked around clapping the fans. There's only one man that I can remember walking up to the fan base and going like that, 5 feet away from the Green Brigade. It wasn't Brendan Rodgers, it was Ange Postecoglou. He lapped up every bit of adulation. But the egomaniac that is Brendan Rodgers just came out, a wee clap to the fans, let the players celebrate and walk back up the tunnel again. And that's something that's got to be remembered when you talk about how much this guy's supposed to be an egomaniac, because I think the perception of this man is just blown out of proportion, and Twitter and Facebook make it worse. I don't think the guy is egotistic as the guy's getting ego.
It's quite funny though, some of it.
That's funny. Well, I always say, because it's us as a fan base, we're self-deprecating, and we love to make a pure fool of ourselves, because
I said that the other day.
I did see you say that, and you raised a good point, because what the difference between us and other fan bases is we don't take ourselves seriously too much. We take our team seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously, and I think that shows. And the Ronnie Rowe, that was a bit self-indulgent, I feel. I mean, the guy was doing that after they beat East Kilbride 2-0. I mean, I'm that night watching that.
You Celtic manager that often, do you? But listen, I want to cover all angles, right? I'll bring us up with Brown Warrior. Listen, we're all about opinions in here. Nobody has to agree with us. You don't have to agree with each other. Let's all just respect each other's opinions. And Brown Warrior's perfectly entitled to his point there. What I would say is, you're absolutely right, mate. He did. But so did Ange. And see, if it was February and Ange got offered that job, I'd be pretty sure that he would have left for that as well. And do you know what else is going to happen? See, if Brendan Rodgers is successful, he's going to leave us again for more money. Such as the merry-go-round that we're on. I think, as I say, is the one thing I would call for would be unity for the fan base. You don't necessarily have to like the person, but if they are bringing success to the club, then we need to have a united front. I think the last thing we need is fan negativity in the stands. It'll bleed through onto the pitch, and it's a distraction we don't need. One thing I would say is, I think he comes in with an arm already tied behind his back. What's he going to be measured against? An invincible treble, a treble last season. You know, he's in for a tough ride no matter what. One thing I want to start getting on it, guys, with regards to Rodgers, and you briefly touched on it, guys, was the whole European thing. Let's be honest, it wasn't great. It hasn't been great for years. So what's he done in Europe since he's been away with Leicester? Well, as you said, semi-final of Europa Conference League. Make of that competition what you will, but you've still got to get there. Played 8, won 4, lost 2, drew 2. Not too bad. Europa, 14 games, 16 wins, 14 draws, 4 losses. At Leicester, that's probably, if we're being totally honest, that's our kind of level. Is it not? More Europa League? It's getting the Champions League, hope to drop down. So with that in mind, we'll start off with yourself. Boise, I'll catch you with a surprise there. What do you expect getting into the Champions League? We've seen all this chat about 30 to 35 million pounds just up front to build on already what looks like a decent squad. If we sell 1 or 2 players, you would like to think that that money would be reinvested, because you know, a transfer budget's based on this is your squad now. Build on it, is it not? Anything else is a bonus. You should get a wee bit back. But what's your expectations without a manager in the door? What do you want to see? What would be considered as tangible progress for us getting into the Champions League?
First and foremost, Stevo, the first step of tangible progress for the Champions League is tooling a manager up for the Champions League. And whether people like it or not, we treated the tournament with disdain last summer. I think Andrew's a bit wet behind the ears as to what would be required for it. That's not his fault. He's never managed that level. That board sat and let that happen. Yeah. Like, oh, you want him? Oh, no worries. And then one of the one targets I think he did have that he didn't get was that Vinicius guy. You look at the money involved there. That to me is a bare minimum. If that's identified as a number 1 target, go and fucking get him. And I think that'll be the first step of tangible progress for me, will be knowing that we've actually we're not going to be spending money the other Champions League clubs are, but going within the funds that we've got and realistically going, what are they doing there anymore? What are we actually waiting on with them? Yeah. And going, we've got the guy in situ. Apparently he's going to be the highest paid manager since Brendan Rodgers was the last highest paid manager, which I love. We really love that. And I just think, what's the point in paying him those wages if you're not then going to go out and give him guys that can make an impact in the Champions League. So that'd be the first sign I would know there's tangible progress being made. To actually be the recruitment recognising the tournament and treating it with the fucking respect that it deserves. Because that tournament is world's elite club tournament. And when you take clubs and countries, I think it's probably the best tournament in the world, or the most difficult, let's say it that way. So to be going in there with only one person to even start that you brought in the summer last year, and for the manager to actually have got shot of him after 6 months, I mean, that tells you that, man, whether it was the manager's fault, the board's fault, whatever it was, that wasn't tooling someone up. So that'd be the first thing we'd expect. Then after that, I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult because plaudits, not points, seem to be absolutely on the menu for all Celtic fans last year. Everyone just raving to say we played well.
Not the post. We did.
I don't think Rodgers is. Yeah, it's like we beat Real Madrid at home now.
Oh.
It's genuinely like we got beat 3-0. It feels like we beat
Embarrassing,
them.
Boise. It's
When people
embarrassing.
talk about it, I think Rodgers has got a different mindset for that. I think he'd be someone who'd go and again, whether it's sceptical in his ego or all the ego he believes Celtic has, by the way, which I think people forget as well. I think he looks at Celtic as a great club, and I think he'll be going, no. If we're in there, let's tool me up to mix it. And let's fucking mix it. I think he'll be going all out for a third place finish. I know that sounds like, after all that hype there, quite negative. But for 2 points, that would be one hell of a tangible step of progress if we were to get third. And make no bones about it, there is no way you get a manager of Rodgers. We've just spoke about semi-finals in the Conference League, 5th place finishes in the Premier League twice in a row, shit like that. These guys do not come back to Celtic just to win trebles again. Right?
Yeah.
So... whatever assurance he's been given will have Europe at its forefront. You better let Phil speak. He's doing a Jonathan for last week now.
No,
you're doing me a favour actually by not coming to me that often.
He's slow throat still, he's recovering, but you're going to have to talk now, mate. You know, as I say, listen, the Champions League or Europe, right? You know, it's it's great being the Champions League. You want to dine at the top table. You want all the riches. You want the exposure that goes with it. You hope to give yourself a good shot at it in terms of tooling up. But as I say, it's a combination of really, let's face it, it's the luck of the draw, isn't it? You know, we could end up getting Real Madrid, Arsenal, and, one other. 3 tremendous teams, right?
Yep.
What do you do with that group? If we get drawn a group like that, or a group similar to what I think Red Star were in this year, where it was like Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and Inter, what do you do with that? No matter who it is, if it's Ange that spent the money or if it's Brendan Rodgers, what's the expectancy levels out of that? So, where does it come for you? Like, are you just going to base your expectations simply on when you see the draw? Because it is all just hypotheticals at the moment. Yeah. Do you think fans are likely to give, if it's going to be Brendan Rodgers, but even let's say if it was Ange Postecoglou, are we at a stage now with the second time round that regardless of what the draw is, fans are instantly going to expect results, i.e. finishing third, even if you get an absolute horror bag of a group? Again, is that another obstacle unfairly for the off that you might have to face?
Yeah, I'd think so. It is all down to the luck of the draw. That's how I'll be treating it come September. I'll wait and see what we get. I mean, I remember the first time around with Brendan, the Invincible treble season. I remember the end of the season, I was watching the Europa League final that year, and it was Ajax were playing Man United, Jose Mourinho's Man U. And so many people on Twitter that night were like, how did this Ajax team get to the final? How did they know? They're not that good. They're basing it on, well, they kind of overlooked the fact that it was Jose Mourinho's Man United. And of course, Jose Mourinho in finals, as we saw just the other week. He's got a technique when it comes to a final of how he likes to play. So it made Ajax look a lot weaker than what they are. So, Celtic fans will be based on, we've had a treble, stuff like that. We should be able to go into these competitions and compete because they were based on the fact we just had an invincible treble domestically. And teams like Ajax can get to that final. It's so difficult to gauge the European football. It's a cliche, but there is generally no easy games at all. But I would like us to be that team that come out the fourth spot that people are genuinely afraid of. I've been season ticket since 2007. So the first season I was a season ticket holder, we beat AC Milan, we beat Shakhtar Donetsk, and we beat Benfica. We won 3 home games out of 3. We got through to the next round, we gave Barcelona a right scare. So I was quite fortunate to witness that one, and I missed those nights because since then it's been pretty slim. We had the Neil Lennon one, we beat Barcelona, And then, we've had a couple of flirtatious group stages, but yeah, no much luck after that. Big European scalps. It's something I would like to see Celtic getting back to. And yeah, it's a case of we'll just need to see how the draw comes out and tool the manager up accordingly. We'll talk about things that can get fans back on side. I think if we make a few big signings, a few marquee signings, I think that's going to help as well. That'll definitely prove a statement that all this stuff that we're hearing in the news about the European vision, and he's going to get backed. Well, that would definitely prove it. If we'll get a lot of fans excited for the European football. So yeah, it's just a case of we just need to wait now. But before that, obviously, because it's not till is it end of August the draw gets made? Because it kicks off in September, but it's August. So the transfer window is obviously open like now. So we've got a good couple of months there to be ready for it. So when the draw is made, we'll see how strong our squad is then, and just see what comes out. So yeah, I'll just judge it then at that point. But I'm hoping that we do not get, as you said, there was a group this year where it was Barca and Bayern. I think it was like Victoria Pilsen for the Czech Republic with the fourth team, and it was just like
hammered.
This man, but put yourself in their mindset. What do they do with that? You're saying like, what do you do a group like that? I don't know. They must be thinking. I think their fans would have just been like excited. Let's go. Let's do it. But yeah, if we were in that one, I don't like it.
So just before we move on, just to finish up now, a quick word for yourself on the whole European situation, Mark. It says, listen, expectations are going to be high for domestic, but I think we're all fairly confident with the squad we've got and guys bringing in that we should have more than enough to push on quality-wise. Europe, what's your measuring stick? What do you expect? As we said, it's total luck of the draw, isn't it? But it's plaudits, not points. He probably doesn't get that. We could play brilliant on the ice and not take a point, and he's going to be considered to be an arsehole anyway. So what do you think? Would you have got any expectations or thoughts on Europe?
Well, I think he was the last manager to win a game in the Champions League for Celtic. You know what I mean? So, and I think if Carl McGregor doesn't miss that last-minute sitter against Werder Bremen, we qualify for the next round. So the guy hasn't a complete dump. I know the narrative, and I know Brown Warrior has got good opinions almost every show, but I think he's maybe focusing on his personal opinion of Rodgers rather than his actual time as a manager. And I think European football, Celtic fans have got an expectation in Europe that they go out and play a brand of football, the Celtic way, as you want to put it. I think we have to be a bit more, I hate using the word pragmatic because I've seen it popping up, but it was in my head already. Celtic have got to realise where we are at the table in Europe. You know what I mean? We are, in terms of squad depth, but we're small fry compared to the big teams, so we need to play the game. And if that means hitting teams on the break, then so be it. Rangers, they got to a European final by playing that way. Just taking the scraps, hitting the ball into the box as often as possible. They play to their strengths. Celtic fans don't accept that, but they also don't accept them getting points either. I think Brendan Rodgers, his European record doesn't stack up against Martin Neils or Neil Lennon's or Gordon Strachan's. That's fine. But I think even then, which wasn't a long time ago, I think the football landscape's changed. I think the 3 quarters of the Champions League are just far too good for the likes of Celtic. So we need to play to our strengths. Can Brendan Rodgers win a match for the dugout? I've said a million times, yes, he can. 110%. I think a lot of Celtic's shortcomings under Rodgers in Europe are down to personnel rather than down to his naive tactics. We went to play PSG and it's been flung against us about 10 times that they beat us 7-0 or 7-0.
Right back.
No, but look at the away game, Stevo. We did, and also see that night they had like £500 million just as strikers to play against. They had Cavani, Mbappe, and Neymar up front. Yep. And I mean, let's be honest here, right? It's no fair that these teams spend that amount of money, but how can we compete against that? You know what I mean? And they were never getting fucked.
People think, see with the European record as well, I think also there needs to be a wee deeper dive into what you class as being terrible in Europe, because actually he's the only Celtic manager who's had to navigate 2 qualifying rounds. Yeah, right. That's not just a playoff round. Yeah. He's had to do 2, and he did it 2 years in a row.
He won 3-0, which was neat.
Well, that was in the group. That was on the group.
I'm just saying, but he's actually. You said he's got through 4 ties or 4 ties as such.
The only Celtic manager to do it 2 years in a row, back to back. And I go, that's pretty consistent when you're entering earlier into the qualification rounds. Do you know what I mean?
With Ewan O'Connell at the back and Sviatchenko. Ewan O'Connell, Sviatchenko. And we had Johansson, who was dying to go to the club. He was playing. I mean, there was a lot of things going on then that won me. That's when the Rodgers team was still high. And you know, I think
does he get through Midtjylland last year?
I does. I think Rangers will get through Midtjylland as well. To be honest with you, they're a worse team than us. You know what I mean? And I think Angie's record. If you want to take away somebody's domestic success and just whitewash it because of the European success, well there's no bigger fuck up in Celtic's recent history than Ange Postecoglou, because that was the easiest group I've ever seen Celtic get in the Champions League. We normally get AC Milan, Barcelona, and then another team of your standard. We got a group that we could have finished second in. And if you remember on match day 2, we were all sitting in the pod going, oh, this has changed, this narrative's changed. Now we could finish second in this group. Mm-hmm. Flip on to match day 4, we're going, okay, we're going to finish last. You know what I mean? It changed very quickly. That guy was not for changing, and that's why I think he'll be sacked at Spurs. Whereas see Rodgers, I think he might be a bit more long in the tooth now that he's had a couple of kicks in the teeth at Celtic. He might just look at the big teams and say, okay, I've been there. I know what I could do in the road to get beat 5-6 again. I'll be a bit more pragmatic. I'll play to your strengths and maybe no play the Celtic way. Which the Celtic way was only good when Celtic were dominating teams in Europe. And that was a long, long time ago, I'm afraid.
Do you know, it's a great point, and that's the thing. There's this perception that we play a certain style of football. You know, it's winning with style. But, you know, I might be wrong here. I certainly don't speak for all Celtic fans, but I'd imagine that the vast majority would take, particularly at the top table, winning, no matter how it's achieved. Everybody rattles on about the Barcelona game. You watched that back, it was fucking brutal. It was horrendous. There's nothing glorious about it other than the final score. It was a doon, right? But everybody laps it up. So why not just learn from that? You know, cut the cloth and play the way you need to play. If you play a weekend side or a lesser side, then yeah, do you know what, attack, be expansive. But if you're playing against the big heavy hitters, sometimes you've just got to sit in, you've got to take your medicine and try the best you can and be more pragmatic, as you say. So on Europe, on development going forward, we wanted to think about signings. And there's obviously, again, we don't have them in the door, nothing's official. But there's already, as you'd imagine, names that are bouncing about. So we spoke about this spending money, guys. We spoke about making the squad stronger with more quality and a step up. And certainly some of the names early are from his team at Leicester. No surprises there. The likes of Kasper Schmeichel or a Daniel Marty, Ghanaian midfielder, defensive midfielder, roughly rated about 15 million. He's going to be getting up for, you know, a third of that. You know, are these the kind of guys, if he's linked with, that you would welcome? Folk will say if we shop in these sort of English and European markets, we're going to get our pants pulled down. But we can't also be closed down to these niche markets we've tapped into. Boys, say, do these kind of signings, would you welcome that kind of return to things? You know, there's kind of names coming in from down south that people know who they are. Any of those two guys, does that sound like something you think could pick us up? Or even, dare I say it, an El Yanusi was another one that's been thrown about?
Well, I think when it comes down to the players that he brings in, you need to remember Rodgers coming to the SPFL based on the CV we've spoke about and going back to it, shows you the pool Celtic's got and shows you the hold it does, right? And it's got a lure about it. And I think with Brendan then once in situ, he then adds to that lure. I think when you look at the players you can attract from a Celtic perspective anyway, and then you add Brendan Rodgers to the equation, you look how difficult he found it to turn down, and then he spins that story to a prospective signing, and suddenly it will be. You'll be shopping in maybe different supermarkets where Ange was. Now, Ange actually did very well in the transfer market when he got his guys, but there's a lot of misses as well that I still struggle to square the circle as to how some of these guys came about, where they were on his list and where they were on Celtic's list. And I just don't think there's going to be, whilst Ange may have came over as having a lot of authority, I think at times, yes, man's a bit far, but I think at times he did have to, all right, we'll go with that sort of vibe, right? And I think that happened with quite a few signings. I don't think you'll ever kiss and make up with him, Nelly.
You can hope.
No, I don't think Dembele will kiss and make up. I think Rodgers would definitely go. But I think we could be rest assured that it won't just necessarily be though ex-Leicester City players or players from the Premier League that Rodgers will know about. This is not a guy who's been in football as long as he has that only knows one market.
Yes.
But what he does do is he sells the club in a way that takes us to that next level. Whereas Ange was maybe getting to that because his reputation was growing. Rodgers is set in stone. Whether we fucking like him, you like him or you don't like him, Rodgers' reputation is set in stone. All footballers of so many ages will have stories about when they played him at Chelsea's youth, they played him at fucking Swansea, they played him at Celtic, and so many stories about rejuvenating careers, improving players, and that goes wild in dressing rooms. Folk talk about all that stuff, do you know what I mean? And because players then disperse across so many clubs, his reputation amongst footballers, I think, will be extremely high. And I think he'd be an extremely attractive manager to work under. I think the Champions League then sells itself. And then, as I always say, Celtic should sell itself as well. But I think when you add those two other commodities of Champions League and Brendan Rodgers, I think that allows us to be looking at, if it was a £5 million player who was once valued at 13, we shouldn't be batting our eyelids at that. Well, what the fuck's all that about? That should be the norm for Celtic. And I'll put it out there right now. If and when Brendan takes over, hopefully it'll be tomorrow it's announced, and then Big Monday get the standout, mate. But if that is all the case, I would expect the 9 million Edward to be eclipsed this summer as well.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, and I'll ask you real quick on that, Phil. As we say, if the chitter is £30 million, we've all said that at least the foundations of the squad look pretty good. We've got a good, solid foundation to build on. I would expect a few guys to be let go in drips and drabs. Do you think we're likely to see? Are we going to see a marquee signing to go with a marquee manager?
I think so, yeah. Again, I think it's all part of the getting the fans on side. We're part of that as well, because it'll help. Now, here's a question, though, or a thing to think about, is obviously if Brendan's coming back, I don't think he would be coming back under the idea that we're going to lose so many players, because a lot of fans have been speculating that Ange will come in and do this and take this player and all that. I don't think Ange is going to raid our team and take about 6 or 7 players. I don't think Brendan would be agreeing to come back if there was a fear that we're going to lose Jota, Carter Vickers, Kyogo, Hatate, because I think we're going to retain a fair amount of them, and it's going to take. I mean, are we going to break a transfer record? Possibly, but if we can get a good 3 or 4 players in that we're spending, in excess of like 5-6 million on them. Again, these are like statement signings just to add to different positions, because there's a few positions that we can improve on, definitely. But I don't foresee us losing like a massive chunk of the squad. Maybe one tops. Famous last words could be. Hopefully not. But no, I think that Brendan wouldn't exactly be too up for coming back, knowing that if the board say, and by the way, we expect we're going to lose Jota and Carter Vickers and Kyogo, I think a lot of them will be staying. I think many of them will be impressed working under him as well. I know maybe a bit of uncertainty with some of the players because we're so familiar with Ange. But I think when Brendan gets a hold of some of these guys, because I've indulged the last few days on lots of like old podcasts and stuff, just listening to Brendan talking, players talking about working under him. And there's the funny stories there. They always caveat it with, but he's the best coach I've worked under. There's the Matt Mills, the Reading one, who told the Gucci belt story. That's where that obviously comes from. He also talks about in the middle of like a team meeting at Reading, he just began speaking Spanish, but none of the players for Reading were actually Spanish speakers, but he just began doing it. So he says he does all these really oddball, eccentric things, but he said, I must caveat it and just say, look, he's the best coach I've ever worked under. He can get so much out of you, but he just does some really odd things at times. And I'm thinking of guys like Jota on him. I look at Scott Sinclair and what he did at Celtic. Now, obviously, Jota is a player that's on the up. He's going to be an incredible talent. Imagine if you add Scott Sinclair's goals to Jota's game. Remember how many goals did Sinclair score in his first season? Was 25?
27.
Oh, it was unbelievable for the win. Yeah.
Jota's got a fair amount of goals already, but imagine if you could add that many goals
I agree.
to him. I think, Jesus, man. And I imagine Brendan would sit down with him pretty early and say, listen, you're the man here, you're my boy here. I think he would go really well with Jota. Because Jota, he fancies himself definitely. You can see it, Jota's got confidence about him. I think him and Brendan would be a match made in heaven. A manager and player relationship, definitely.
No, absolutely. I said that the other day. When we think he just some of the players, all right, there was some sketchy things at this time, but we look at the amount of body of players that were already in situ that came on leaps and bounds, and they just levelled up. So, final word for yourself on that, Mark, with regards to signings. What's going to excite you about Rodgers coming in the door? Is it going to be potential signings, or a wee bit, as I've just alluded to, how he can develop players that are already in place to be a better version than they already thought they could be?
Well, one thing about Rodgers last time is there was players that were riddled through that team that we thought were finished, and he turned them into absolute stalwarts of that team. There was guys who we didn't think had a career at Celtic, and they turned into first team members. I mean, Forrest was finished, Brown was finished.
Stuart Armstrong was the one that
Stuart Armstrong was a few players. There might be players that who we haven't seen, like even Turnbull dare suggest that might have a future at Celtic. I doubt it, but I think Celtic will make a statement signing or two, because I think they'll roll on the bandwagon. I think the story of Celtic backing this player. Oh my God, man! I think, my God, I think I'm a different level for Bernabei. That is going to be the worst. If Raphael Scheidt is remembered as the worst transfer in this century, then I think that guy is going to be above him. He is absolute shite. He won a raffle. But anyway, I think if Celtic want to carry on this mindset, because I think the story was put out there that Celtic are going to back him very highly. I think Celtic did that deliberately to get the fans' own favour, and the fans that were not up for it. I think Celtic will make a couple of signings that might just raise eyebrows. Unless you're not got any eyebrows, then you can't raise them. But Bernabei, you got to get rid of him. I think I listened to him today. It was in the papers today, and he said that if an offer comes in, that he'll think about it. And I thought that was quite clever. I think he's kind of setting us up to go. That's fine for me, because I think guys like Hatate can be replaced. Guys like Cameron Carter-Vickers can't be. You know what I mean? Guys like maybe Carl McGregor can't be replaced, but Hatate's not. I think they can be replaced fairly easy, because Celtic will just restructure how they play in midfield and things like that. I think we can replace them. But no, I'm looking forward to. I think this summertime for us was going to be about progressing to another level in Europe, or at least try to get a fresher looking squad. This news turned into something exciting for Celtic, because now we're thinking, what direction are we going now? Is this Rodgers 2.0? Is this the season we were promised under Ange last season in Europe? Is this going to be the next step for Celtic? I don't watch European football much for Celtic, but this season, if we bring in Brendan, I think I'm going to go all in. I know I'm going to go for it. I'm going to just try and broaden my horizons when it comes to Celtic.
Oh, love it!
He will tell you, because we never
I
spoke
do.
about this. I think if we get Brendan Rodgers, I think it'll be a right crack at it. And Dermot Desmond, when he gets angry, things start to happen at Celtic, and he's been pissed off. I think it's been fairly obvious that he's been pissed off with a few things, and give Brendan Rodgers the money that we expected Ange to be given this season, and you watch ours go, because I'm really excited about this guy coming back. Should he come back? It's not finished yet, but I think it will be.
This is Brendan's third season. This is the way I see it. It's just if you just not because you want to erase all the joy in between. But if you just look at it, this is Rodgers' third season now, going in the way we were meant to go into his third season last time round. And see if you could sell it to him like that. That's how he'll jump on. He'll go, right, we're all now playing ball again. I'm like, yes, Brendan. I know you said this 5 years ago. This is what you wanted. I think we're capable of doing it this time round. In fact, more capable than last time as well. I think the squad he's actually inheriting. He'll be acutely aware, ladies and gentlemen. That's better than the one he had before, I think.
Aye. Well, with less gaps in. Sorry, Steve. There's a lot less gaps in this team. I think the gaps in the team that he picked up. I mean, it was like a cheese grater. You know what I mean? I think this team has not got a lot of gaps. I think the defence is fairly solid. I think the midfield's got a look to it, a feel to it, but it can be very malleable. And I think the strike force. I mean, you keep Jota and Kyogo in there. I think you could lose MD else in that front line and still be a very dominant force and a very potent strike force. So add a few players to each position, upgrade on your Bernabei's, upgrade on your Matt O'Reilly's. He is acutely aware. I'm acutely aware that it's 10 past 10, so I'll stop talking shite now.
There we go.
Thanks for watching.
There we go. Came the end of our Thursday night forum. Listen, thank you very much to every single one of you that have been watching. We will have 150 consistently all the way through. As we say, as the story's rumbling on, as it rumbles on, we'll continually be here. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that there's going to be an announcement tomorrow that we can get our teeth into and we can start talking about planning ahead. Quick word for yourself, Phil. Is there going to be anything happening tomorrow night?
Perhaps. I mean, I kind of require Celtic to announce something, and then I might have something in the works. I have been putting together another nostalgia episodes I do for a Friday night, but yeah, it's kind of reliant on Celtic.
Top 10 lies of Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, okay, but obviously it's about the man himself, you know, in retrospective. But I'd feel a bit foolish if I do it tomorrow night and then it doesn't happen. So, Celtic, would you please just announce it? If not, we'll come on and we'll probably do something else. Just more of this, really. Just
Yeah,
talk
sure.
about the current situation.
Yeah.
Whatever we
I'll
do.
be there.
But yeah, if he does get announced, I am planning on doing like the sort of career retrospective of Brendan Rodgers' nostalgia, which I see the graphic there. But yeah, I kind of need Celtic to do their job and bloody announce it. Then I'll feel better because I'll have that sinking feeling that it's going to go wrong if I go and do that show and I'm going to look really daft and get clipped.
Absolutely, mate. Fucking board, get yourself in order if you're any's are watching. You can't be holding the bus up. We need content out there. We need to talk about the bronze Adonis. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. As we listen, you've seen the excitement that Brendan Rodgers can he can even turn Mark into a positive person. Mark's all in, we're all in, but we're still waiting. As Monty says, the second coming is always better than the first. That goes for the Stone Roses. You know you didn't like it at first. You stick that on and you play it, and it's a topper, and it'll be the exact. So as I say, thank you for every single one of you that have stuck about with us. As I say, if you haven't done it before you leave, give us a wee like, give us a share, slag Boyce's here. And the second coming, if you need to do that, get yourself an ED pharmacy, and that will definitely be happening. See you all later. Thank you very much to every single one of you. We'll be back again throughout the week. Hopefully, there's going to be news coming our way. Till then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everybody.
Yes.